on this computer. Hello and welcome to the Confidence Mastery Podcast. I am your host, as always, Natalie Bailey. And today I am delighted to bring to you David Roberts, who has known me, and I've known him for quite a while online. And David's had me on his People with Purpose podcast. And the things that we spoke about on his podcast, and if you haven't listened to it yet, you absolutely need to, really intrigued and inspired me. And I thought that he would be a great guest for you to listen to through all sorts of things, from confidence building, mindset, business. And there's a lot of stuff that we're really aligned on. So David, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. It's great to be here.
I'm really glad that you're excited to be here. I'd be worried if
you yeah, exactly. Yeah, that wouldn't start, would it?
No, it wouldn't. Would you like to give the listeners just a brief introduction to you and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm David Roberts, and I run businesses, and I'm the host of the People with Purpose podcast, as you just said, and I've always had a bit of a passion, and I worked it out when I'd gone through a bit of a period of not really liking myself very much. That what I love is seeing other people do things that they didn't think were possible. And I've done that through business mainly. Also, friends, family, relationships, all that sort of stuff. I love it on all levels. But yeah, so I took one business from startup to 8 figures in 2 years, and then bought into another business and grew that and sold that a couple of years ago as well. So like so business has been a big focus for me, but really it's all about how you can help people to really step into their full potential, and like I say, do things they didn't think they were capable of. I just love that. So that's what floats my boat.
Same. I love seeing people succeed, and when they do things that they didn't think they were capable of, and you see the look on their face, like, what a great feeling is that?
Yeah, amazing. And it's all about looking for those opportunities. I had a great quote, and I don't know who said it initially, but if you've got a head full of judgment, then you've got no room for curiosity. And that, I heard that, I can't remember what podcast it was on, but it was on another podcast. And because I kind of surf podcasts quite a lot. I love it when I'm driving or running or walking or whatever. I love having that in my ears. And that really kind of resonated with me, because so easy to step into a place where you're kind of making a decision before you've taken any time to delve deeper, ask a few questions, find out what's really going on, and then you're in judgment land. And what do we all hate and fear more than anything else is being judged. Well, maybe not more than anything else, but that's a big factor for a lot of us, is about being judged. And yet so many of us are wandering around doing it, and including me, quite accidentally. So always keeping that curiosity and asking those questions of other people is brilliant, because one, it empties your own head of any presuppositions or preconceived ideas that you might have, but also what it does is it helps them to empty their heads of any kind of judgment that they might have about themselves, and yeah, it just really opens things up, and I just love that.
It is a huge thing. I actually did a post today about allowing yourself to be curious about the emotions that you have, and letting yourself feel those things, because oftentimes we'll get angry or upset and not really understand why. But if you sit in it and you sit in that emotion and you get curious about it, and you'll then be able to figure it out a lot easier than if you either just try to brush it away, or think that often somebody might do something or say something and we think it's about us, but actually it's about something that's going on with the other person, and they're responding to something that's going on with them. So if we allow that almost childlike curiosity to come back into play as adults, don't you think that we're able to understand so much more about each other?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the silly little things, isn't it? Like you you wave, or somebody waves at you, or you think they're waving at you, right? And then you wave back, and they weren't waving at you at all, and they don't even notice, and that gives you that horrendous sinking in your stomach, and you sort of looking around and see. Oh, really? That's amazing. So yeah, and even little things like that, and in a way, it's been able to, like you say, sit with it and observe it. A really good friend of mine, a really old friend of mine, was talking. I can't remember what we were talking about, because this was like literally 30 years ago. And he said he made a decision to adopt a policy of detached amusement about pretty much anything. And I thought that was a brilliant way of looking at, because it was something that could really fire him up and make him angry, lose control of his emotions, and then basically he would be the one who ended up being the problem, right? Even though he's not the cause of the problem or the source of the agitation, because it would light his fire, trigger him, he would then basically become the problem and be a massive blocker to anything wonderful happening. So detached amusement, and that, when people say things to you, probably in passing, he's probably forgotten, right, that he ever said that or had that thought. But it stayed with me for, like I say, 30 years. And so if you can just sort of sit with what happens and accept that, everyone's got their view of the world, everyone feels similar emotions that might be triggered by different things, and just accept that happens. And then, that gives you the opportunity to understand it. And in so doing, you get a better understanding of other people as well. You're better able to then empathize. And then, in those moments where, if you sit with it and learn something from it and just play with it, detached amusement, try something different next time around, and just see what happens. And that's where questions comes into play for me, because asking sort of open questions that encourage people to think just really then takes things into a slightly different dimension that they didn't expect. And then you're opening yourself up then to being a conversation that is focused on curiosity rather than, accepting things and not then doing anything about it. Because I don't think that's what either of us are really talking about.
Absolutely not at all. And it's like, I don't like that saying, curiosity killed the cat. Because if we're not curious about things, we don't go exploring and going on adventures, like whether that is through your business or personal life, how are you supposed to really fully experience the one life we have to live?
It's not going to happen.
No, it's not. And the world's a big old place. And I'm sure the people that are listening are thinking, how on earth did you grow a business to 8 figures in 2 years?
Yeah, it was a bit of luck and a lot of hard work. It was partly through winning contracts, going out and really understanding what the clients needed. I mean, they were quite big value contracts, so it wasn't like I wasn't selling stuff for 20 quid. It was kind of, between 10 and £2 million contracts potentially that we're bidding for. But then the opportunity to acquire a company with some credibility, and then with some kind of alignment from the point of view of one, the business, which was profitable, so that was helpful. Two, the people there were great people, and I had a values set that needed to be implemented to really kind of make sure it lined up with the purpose and everything else. There was that alignment there. So there were a number of things that worked to the advantage of the mission. But having clarity around the mission makes a massive difference, because if you've got that clarity, you've also got that a willingness to like I say, be curious and look for those opportunities. But also it was a big stretch in a way, because it was a case of making sure that I had one foot outside my comfort zone all the time. I mean, I've done a bit of selling, but I'm not the best salesperson. And when we started, it was me and one other person, and he was the ops guy, I was the sales guy, and kind of like the front person or whatever. So it was down to me. So putting yourself in a situation where, well, look, when you look around, there was somebody else. So I had somebody to bounce off, somebody that I trusted, somebody that brought something different, but actually going and getting the clients was down to me. So that, in a way, enabled me to generate that belief that I could actually do it. And then, yeah, you get the evidence of success because you get an order, you win a contract, people like the sort of thing that you're talking about, and you realize that you're helping somebody else to solve a problem. Then it just spurs you on, and yeah, and then you end up creating a bit of luck along the way.
I've always said we create our own luck. It's not something that I don't believe in coincidences. I just don't. That's probably another podcast in itself. Like, I did one today for next week. Motivation is a lie. And it's like, you need the discipline to go and take the action to make these things happen. But you were put into that kind of situation where a lot of people listening may be thinking, hold on, that's like really far outside of my reach. So what might be the stepping stones for the mindset behind, I'm going to get to this level of success, whatever that means to the listener or to you? Because the success might be the first 5 figures, the first 6, the first 7, and then the 8, 9, 10 later on. And what sort of things helped you in your toolbox to go, right, I'm going to go do this and make this happen?
Okay, cool. So I guess the first thing was that I needed to learn a lot. I've always been really keen to learn, but I learned a lot by working for other people. So I didn't start off as like an out and out entrepreneur. You kind of talk to people sometimes and they have this kind of entrepreneurial kind of zeal inside them from the age of 12, and they're doing deals in the playground and all that sort of stuff. That wasn't me. I was somebody that needed to go down a different road, and I guess I realized that working for other people was good as long as you were learning something, and asking for opportunities, putting yourself out there, stretching yourself, but kind of on somebody else's time and money in a way. So it was a little bit safer. And then I got to a point where it became more and more frustrating for me that I wasn't quite getting the support or getting the backing that I wanted or needed to really make the change that I wanted to make. And so it was a bit about that learning and recognizing that I had stuff to learn, and having the humility to actually want to do that. And I still do that today. I'm still learning every single day today. So that was the first thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, and sometimes that does come with a bit of a need to be humble. And as a leader, being humble, I think, is also really crucial. And then the second thing then was values. I realized that values are really important to me. So if I was working for a business and there was alignment with the values, then that meant that, I would always work hard. I would always, do my best. But if I could align with the values and the purpose, the mission, where that business was going, then there was something about that situation that kind of supercharged any of my efforts and my satisfaction with the results and all of that sort of stuff. So when I started to notice an incongruence, if you like, between what the organization was talking about and what the organization was actually doing, that kind of was a big signal to me. Right, it's time to look for the next lesson. I'm not going to learn any more here, because my mind's going to be closed to that educational opportunity, if you like, because it was a kind of the learning and earning type thing. I had to make sure that I was doing one or well, actually I had to make sure I was doing both, not just one or the other.
And that's
So
one of the things a lot of people don't seem to look at. And they get to a certain point, I suppose, in a job, if they're a PAYE and they've hit the ceiling and don't know how to maneuver outside of that. And then I find that people then become fairly miserable in their job, in their career, and then they don't know how to ignite that change.
yeah, what would you love?
Well, what do you love? And then I think that's a really good question to anybody listening. What do you love?
Yeah, yeah. And now when I'm working with people, I've sold the business, but I still work for that business now. So I'm now kind of an employee in that company, and do a couple of other things as well. But that question is a vital question. So how are you? How can I help? What would you love? What can you change to make it work? Questions like that just kind of encourage people to start thinking beyond that. And if you're talking to somebody, if you're a leader in a business and you've got somebody, I don't care what size business it is, it can be, two, three, four people, it can be hundreds of people. If you've got somebody and you're asking that question and you're not hearing anything that aligns particularly with your mission as an organization, what you're doing, where you're going, what you're trying to do, then you've got to have a really open and honest conversation with that person and help them, because it can really hurt people. Staying too long in a job where they're not happy, where they might not feel like they're doing a good job, it can actually really hurt them. And even though there might be some sort of short-term pain, if somebody ends up leaving almost because you've asked them the question that's made them think that's the right thing to do, that's still better than having somebody staying with you for years and years, not being happy, ultimately then maybe not being well in the end. That you're not going to create the opportunity for people to do things they didn't think were possible in that kind of an environment. So you got to do that. And then for people who are in that situation, you can ask that question of yourself. What would I love? And it's not just about work, it's about for your life, because work is part of life. And if you ask that question and again sit with and observe the answer, then you might well find something that you're able to do that you really enjoy and also get paid for it.
And that's a beautiful thing. Like I really genuinely love what I do. I love the podcast because I get to have amazing, interesting conversations with all manner of people, obviously yourself included. And it opens doors to so many other things. And I think that conversation is becoming a lost art because of technology and the way that people are becoming so separated. So this event I'm speaking at tomorrow, there's like over 200 people registered, and then there's like 60 people registered for online. Now, the people that are going to be watching online, they're not going to get the same benefit as the people that are here in person, because you don't get the same kind of connection, like, looking in the whites of someone's eyes and the different conversations that happen at the breaks and the breakout rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah. And the whole thing about communication being 7% the words you say, and then whatever the maths is around the rest of it is all in the kind of the way that you say it and your body language. And you can pick up bits online, but it is a bit like it's a bit like I don't know, going on holiday somewhere sunny and staying indoors all the time, and not getting any vitamin D. It's kind of you're not going to get that complete experience. It's sort of better than nothing. But also, as you say, the benefit of going to an event and being there, and that opportunity to connect with other people is just it's one of the vital human needs, isn't it? So that whole thing about connection and belonging. And I get that some people feel less comfortable going into a room full of people than others, but actually taking that step, breathing and going in there and yeah, starting to talk to people is it's a brilliant thing. I love doing it.
Yeah, it helps you to expand as a human being. And one of the things that I always think, if you are worried or you're nervous about going into a room, go and look for the other person that looks as nervous as you are and go and make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that way, that will help you to feel more comfortable because you've done a good thing. And that's
Yeah.
how you'll start to grow these connections.
Exactly. What's the best way of making somebody else feel comfortable? It's encouraging them to talk about themselves invariably. And it's a good place to start. And so again, we're back to asking great questions. And what that does is that takes the pressure off you. I mean, people, always are, well, what am I going to say when they say, well, what do you do? And why are you here? Well, fine. Have something, in mind that it doesn't go on for ages and kind of is a little bit snazzy or whatever. But if you can't think of anything particularly groundbreaking or that you're particularly happy with, then yeah, forget that and think about what questions are you going to ask somebody else. And again, that whole curiosity piece, because that's how you find out if that person is for you. And if that person is not for you, then okay, cool. Maybe you've made them feel better. You've, improved their lives because, oh, someone spoke to me. That's good. And then, you can move on and talk to somebody else. And just also when you move on and talk to somebody else, just be really clear and honest about that and say, I'm here to sort of stretch myself a bit today. I'm here to talk to as many people as I can. It's been great to meet you, but I'm going to go and find somebody else to talk to because I want to get better at introducing myself to people. Or what? Just be really honest about it, because
policy,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
And the other thing I think in these kinds of situations as well is like you have to remember that you aren't going to like everyone, and that's okay. And not everybody's going to like you. I said that the wrong way around, actually. But knowing that there are going to be people that don't like you is okay because there are people that you don't like. And if we all like the same things, life would be very, very dull. And I like to see meeting new people almost like a game and a bit of a challenge so that I can really understand. And like for me, especially over the past 3 years, like what's happened, the world went batshit. I've found so many people that I'm aligned with and our values because of that.
Yeah.
I'm not grateful. I'm almost grateful for it because it's helped me find my people. But however, I wish it hadn't happened because of all of the horrific things that happened.
Of course. Yeah. But again, we've all got a choice, haven't we, about these things when they happen to us or when they happen to the whole planet.
And how
we do have we have a choice about how we respond, and we can choose to see the things that don't help us, and we can choose to see the things that do, and make a choice that helps you out. And that whole thing about people that you don't like and people that don't like you, if you just change the words of that a little bit and say, okay, so it's people that are like you and people that are not like you, then it kind of it just reframes it a little bit, because invariably what we're looking for is we're looking for people that are similar to us, especially when we're looking for some familiarity, when we want to feel safe and all of those kind of primal type needs we have. And not everyone's like you because you're unique. So if you find somebody who's close to you, there's overlap in circles, then cool. But if you don't, then that should be no great surprise because we come in all shapes and sizes,
different colours, creeds, and all sorts.
Yeah. Smells,
cultures, smells.
Exactly. Yeah. So that helps me a little bit. It's just okay. There's going to be people that are like me, and there's going to be people that aren't. And sometimes in life, you need people that are not like you to help you along. So, from my point of view, I'm not great on detail. I'm kind of I get really excited about ideas really, really quickly, get all excited about the big picture, and could go rushing into something really, really quickly in a Tigger-like fashion, and make a massive mistake. So sometimes what I need are people around me who ask really good questions about the facts, and because I'll ask questions about the vision and all that sort of stuff. But you need to say, okay, so what's the evidence that says this is going to be a good idea or not? And someone who can count properly, so make sure that the money stacks up, or in a business situation, somebody who gets into the detail, because and when I first meet somebody like that, we might not get on that well, because I might really wind them up. I'm sort of blabbering on like
You
I'm
need a bit
doing
of
now.
that push and pull, though, don't you? This
Yeah.
is how my mum and I work. She's very detail orientated, and I'm very big picture. So I pull her along, and she pulls me back a bit, and it works because she does the stuff that I don't enjoy, and I do the things that she doesn't enjoy, and it works almost harmoniously. Because we're very similar but very different. I think that's important, to have the people in your life that are different to you, because they're the people that help us grow. Because if you're always surrounded by people that are like you, how are you ever going to experience that next level of erythi or anything, actually? And the more I'm looking at things, I'm getting a little bit more spiritual and seeing that there is so much more to us. Like, we all are connected through the earth. I tell you what, actually, there's a documentary on Netflix called Fantastic Fungi.
Okay.
It's about an hour and 20 minutes, I think, and it'll blow your mind. It'll just blow your mind.
Will it make me cry like the octopus one did?
No.
Okay.
But it's incredible, because fungi aren't plants.
Right.
And the way that fungi grow, and the way we're all connected, and the trees, they talk to each other through the soil and through their roots, it's fucking mind-blowing. And when I watched that, I was like, "Whoa, holy shit!" Like, there is so much more than I think we'll ever understand as human beings in our lifetime.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I'm definitely going to check that out. Something that I was told 2 weeks ago was about fractals. Have you heard about fractals?
No.
These are shapes in nature. So if you look at tree branches and the kind of almost like the almost symmetry that you get in tree branches, we get some flowers and the sort of symmetry in the petals and all that kind of stuff. Apparently fractals is a kind of a natural phenomenon which actually has a really calming influence on the human mind. And if you see light shining through the trees, and you see these kind of shapes, or you see a flower, if you just pause and just observe it, it can have a really calming influence on you. So again, what does that say? Well, that says, well, one, it's a beautiful thing, but there's definitely some sort of a connection thing going on there.
There really is. We are all connected to the earth. We are born, we live, and we die, we go back to the earth. And that cycle then happens again. Like, grounding, I used to think this was a bunch of shit as well, but I now know it's not, because when I'm at my best, I'm in Mallorca walking along the beach with my feet in the sea.
Yeah, sounds nice.
And that connection to the sea and to the earth in that way makes me feel good, and like the calming sound of the ocean as the tide comes in and out. And there's something to be said about that, in the same way as like if you're in a forest or you put your feet in the mud. I had a little sit a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm in the arse end of nowhere. I'm like, right, I need to take my shoes off. I need to go put my feet in the earth. And I did, and it was pretty gross. It didn't feel very nice on my feet. But my mind, after about 5 minutes, started to feel better.
Yeah.
So I do think there is something to be said for, I'm not even sure this is where we were going to go today, but something to be said for how we connect with nature and how we then connect as human beings.
Yeah.
Because obviously your podcast is called People with Purpose.
Yeah.
And tell us more about why people with purpose. I want to link this to what we've just said about like nature and connection. And I think that's a
nice little segue. Yeah, of course. Well, so people with purpose actually came from the fact that I repeated that phrase about 7 times when I was talking about what was important to me. And so, well, okay, that's the name of the podcast then. And so part of that is because I do believe that we all have a purpose. I do believe that it's a case of unlocking that. I don't believe that it has to be anything, like, a cure for a disease or anything like massive. For some people, it's something very, very simple, very straightforward, and for other people, it is a big thing, and that potentially comes from, you know, their environment, their experience, and all those sorts of things. There's a point in time, probably when you're quite young, something happens, something resonates, and it then begins to create a kind of a connection with something. So I know quite a few people who are very connected to nature from the point of view of their purpose and wanting to save the planet. I also know some people who are very connected to one particular part of nature. So running in wild open spaces. One particular, well, there's one guy I know who's just obsessed with the salmon on the River Exe in Devon, and that's basically now a core part of his purpose. I mean, it's not what it's all about, protecting the salmon, because he's got a desire to help people to gain confidence through being out in the wilds. But one thing leads to another, and it evolves. And he's got to that point because there's something about being outside and being out in the wilds which kind of turns him on. It kind of makes him happy. It makes him feel fulfilled, and that he's doing something that's of value to other people. So with the podcast, it's a case of talking to people, asking them questions, finding out what makes them tick. And I've had people on who don't believe they have a purpose. That's interesting as well for me, because people don't see it like that. People don't necessarily use that word, but generally most people are doing something for a reason, and it's a case of digging into that to kind of maybe try to work out why that is.
And sometimes you do need to do a bit of digging with some people because they do feel unworthy or unloved, or like there is no real passion or purpose because of things that have happened in their life. And we need to look at that and explore those things in order to really understand who we are, to be connected with ourselves, in order to connect with other people in a better way. What tips would you give to people to help them to figure out what their purpose is?
Well, so some people say that purpose comes from pain. I guess what I would say about that is, if you're the kind of person that feels guilty when you're in a room and someone's telling their life story, and you think, wow, I can't believe they've been through that, nothing like that's ever happened to me, then please don't feel like that, because pain is a relative concept. So one person's pain is another person's pleasure, if you look at it from a kind of extreme point of view. But we've all had our experiences, and they've created a kind of an emotional response for us. So if you're looking for your purpose, one thing that you can do is you can write down what it is that you love. That's the first thing. And I don't mean necessarily things like jobs and sports and all that kind of stuff. It's write down the feeling that you enjoy, or the kind of the physiological response that you enjoy. So I like laughing. I like making people laugh. I like feeling warm, I like feeling helpful, I like feeling useful, whatever that is. And then you know, if you've got a feel for that, then you can start to experiment with that and just play with it a little bit. You know, try and find an opportunity to express that. So if you you know, love helping people, okay, so who then would you like to help, and in what way? And you can start to build a picture from that. And if you're really struggling with it, then perhaps what you're doing is you're putting yourself under so much pressure to find this kind of be all and end all of a life purpose, that you're actually missing what's right in front of you, which is, you know, you just like listening to people. You just like, you know, we're talking maybe. You just like helping people. Okay, well, so just start there. And, you know, a purpose is kind of nothing if it stays inside you and you don't do anything with it because you're not sure if that's what it is. So take some action, give something a go, and then you know, just remain observant about your feelings and how they play through. And if you feel like it's resonating with you, then do it some more. If not, then try something else. I think it's about, yeah, going with the flow, and yeah, being really kind of conscious about it. Because if you can be conscious, then you can be intentional with what you're doing. And so, yeah, it's a bit like me. I realized the reason I love seeing people do things that they didn't think they were capable of, and helping them to do that. I mean, that started for me. It's always been there, but I didn't know it until I'd actually noticed it. Now, I noticed that with my brother when he did something brilliant when he was younger. I noticed that with my best mate when, instead of feeling jealous of him from having a success, I was really, you know, happy for him. I felt jealous of him before,
Yeah.
but I just, oh, well, that's good. And then I noticed it in a work context, and what, you know, one of my team won an award, and then I thought, what, this kind of keeps happening. There's got to be something in it. So I started to explore it a little bit more. And you know, that's not specific, is it? Helping people do things they didn't think were possible. It's not a specific thing. It's not a job. It's not a kind of a sport or a
No, it's
or
not. But
whatever.
seeing the success that other people have, like that lights a fire in me as well. Like all of
Yeah.
my clients, when they do well, and they all do well, I am so genuinely happy for them. Whereas 10 years ago, as you know, what I was like, I would have been in a full place of jealousy of why is that happening to you and not to me?
Yeah.
So it's almost like
And
you elevate to the next level or some kind of next level of spirituality or as a human being to go, I'm really pleased for you. I'm going to use that as inspiration to push myself forward.
yeah, yeah. And what I love about, well, it's not the only thing I love about you, but one thing I love about you is that you 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 want to help people. You've got this desire to help people that comes through really clearly. You know you can help people, right? And you put that out there, and you're not fearful about, well, you don't come across as being fearful about saying, I can, with your business and with your mastermind, for example, I can help you and this is how much it costs. You're like really transparent. You're really authentic with it. And my sense is that's because you feel it, you believe it, and also you've collected the evidence to show to yourself that you're not just saying it, it does actually happen for
Yeah.
other people when you help them. So I love that. And it's, yeah, it's only because you started doing something with it and doing something about it that actually crystallized, became more clear. And, you know, for you, it may well evolve again and again and again in different ways. But you've kind of found your essence as a result of yeah, observing and then doing and then, yeah, collecting those examples where it works.
Thank you for saying that. That means an awful lot.
You're welcome. Well, I
If
mean, I
I
wouldn't
was a
say.
crier, I'd be crying right now.
But you want to watch that octopus movie, whatever it's called. But I mean, yeah, it's, but but that's the thing, you see, when you're being yourself and you're being true to your purpose, people just feel it. People notice. If you're having a conversation with somebody and you've got a nagging feeling at the back of your mind, do I really trust this person? Listen to those thoughts. I mean, don't judge, ask questions to clarify, and if you're not sure, then yeah, move on and move away. But yeah, you kind of get these senses from people that whether when they're being genuine, when they're being authentic, and when they're being honest with you, and you also get a sense when somebody actually cares about you and not just about themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One of the really lovely things that people have said about me on our mastermind is they don't just feel like a number, they feel like a person, and they can tell I genuinely care about them and their success and how they're living their life. Like I've been parts of loads of different masterminds, and so some of them you're just a number in the room.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to feel like a number, because you're not just a number.
Mm.
You're a human being with amazing things to do with your life, and you should feel whole, and you should feel supported, and you should feel loved, and you should feel worthy.
Yeah.
So if I can do anything to help people along that journey, and I know you do similar, like it makes a massive difference. And
Yeah.
there are also people that you don't even know that you're helping. And this is partly why I love podcasts so much, because you know there are people listening and they might not necessarily reach out, but you know that they're getting something from it. And this is why I always say thank you to every listener on every podcast, because you've taken the time and effort to listen, and hopefully you'll take something away and you'll implement it. And whether you come back to us and tell us or not, like, we know we've done something.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and it's yeah, I guess the other thing that I learned, because again, I didn't have any huge pain in my childhood. I was very fortunate, loving parents and all of that kind of stuff. But for quite a while when I was growing up, probably like lots of people in a way, this whole thing about wanting to be loved and that became a bit challenging for me to handle, and became too much of a pressure. And and a couple of things with friends, I would get really jealous, and a couple of things with girlfriends and stuff, and I'd get a bit obsessed and all that kind of thing. And it was only when I realized that that actually I needed to change my perspective on things, and begin to think about something bigger than myself. And I don't really know what it was that really triggered that thought, but I kind of got to a point where I'd had enough. And so I started thinking more about, okay, so what if I was just there for other people rather than being there for me? Because being there for me isn't really helping me at all, because actually what you end up doing is pushing people away, or attracting the wrong people that aren't suited to you. So yeah, and then literally the moment that I changed that, it made a massive difference, and relationships became more healthy, and both with friends and with with my now wife Penny as well. And so yeah, it's about perspective, isn't it?
Perspective is everything.
Yeah. And so it can be for other people, but actually it helps you as well, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not. So you sound like you're in a very good place at the moment. Last time we spoke about both of our health journeys. How are you going with that?
Well, 2 days ago, I had a sports massage, right? For the first time ever, I thought I'm going to treat myself to a sports massage. And she was absolutely, Abby was brilliant. she got so into my calves. I was kind of lying on this
Oh, the
couch.
calves are painful, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I did unfortunately let a couple of words go that were slightly inappropriate for the surroundings, but yeah. So anyway, but I was I was obviously tensing to avoid shrieking with pain. I've actually now got a dodgy shoulder as a direct result of that sports massage. So I'm now going to a physio tomorrow to get him to sort my shoulder out. So I asked them if it's part of their revenue model. You know, do you actually get people in for sports massage, damage them, so they have to come in for physio 2 days later? So yeah, but that aside, the health thing is all right actually. I was going through a period of not drinking at all, and I'm now drinking a bit again, but just keeping an eye on it, because I do enjoy a glass of wine or two, and it's easy for one thing to lead to another. But you know, when I was off the booze, I didn't. I was saying I didn't really feel any different, but when I went back on it again, I definitely did. So from the point of view of being sharper in the mornings and all that kind of stuff,
I
there's
think it's
definitely
in
a
the difference
difference.
you see, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like one of my clients, he stopped drinking for about 6 months. And he said, I don't feel any different. I don't
Mm.
feel that there's any benefit for me not drinking.
Yeah.
And for me, over the past 4 to 6 weeks, I think I've had a drink 3 times.
Right.
Part of that is because it's my birthday in 2 weeks and I'm going to Vegas and I've got a photo shoot. So
Okay.
no alcohol, my abs will be back. I'm literally 0.4 of a kilo off my target weight with 2 weeks to go.
Nice. Good.
So I'm gonna overachieve because I am an overachiever. But I do find it interesting, like the whole alcohol thing, because it's a drug. We call it drink and drugs, but alcohol is still a drug. And
Mm.
it's so normalized by society, and it's something that's been a huge part of my life for pretty much my entire life. And I do admire people that don't drink and they make that choice. So I've listened to a few books recently on not drinking to see how it affects my psychology, because I'm fascinated by the human brain psychology and all of that.
Mm.
I think that you can drink and be happy and be healthy when you're not going to excess.
Yeah.
It's when
I
it's a daily thing that you know you've got there's a problem, and then in which case I would definitely recommend seeking help, because you're trying to mask something.
yeah.
And that's what I've found with all kinds of different drugs throughout my entire life. Like you're trying to mask a feeling, and by getting into a different state of mind through another substance. And this is what my podcast last week was about finding that inner confidence without the need for external validation, external substances.
Yeah.
If you're capable, because a lot of people are like social drinkers, you have a couple of glasses of wine, you go for dinner, that's great, you enjoy it.
Mm.
I think what we spoke about before, sometimes things go a little too far. And when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
realize that, you can acknowledge it and go, okay, I'm going to take a step back here. And I think that that's a really powerful thing to admit and to be open to.
Mm. Well, I'm not there with it yet, because what I'd like to be is I'd like to be the kind of person that can have one and can have you know, yeah, just drink um just once or twice a week and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that you know I don't seem to be very good at. And I've it's really weird, isn't it? Because quite disciplined in lots of parts of life, and just lack that discipline when it comes to alcohol,
Yeah,
I'm afraid.
this
So
is, this is one thing I'm really researching into at the moment, like the whole alcohol thing, because like for me as well, and obviously I'm putting this out here on my podcast now. um I've probably been drinking half my life, but I am so disciplined with the gym, and I very often don't drink for months and months and months
yeah.
because I've got the training in my head.
Mm.
I also know what it can do and how we feel like it's part of what makes something fun. And often, if you need to drink to make something fun, you shouldn't be at that event.
Yeah.
And something I've come to realize, like a lot more recently, is I'm not going to enjoy that without a drink. Therefore, I shouldn't be at that event.
Yeah. Yeah. Or in that
So,
environment,
exactly,
or
that
whatever.
environment, go and do something else instead.
Yeah.
And that will
Absolutely.
help you with your mindset, with your purpose, with your passion, with your confidence, and you'll become so much happier because of that. And you'll be doing more of the things that do make you happy, as opposed to not.
Yeah. 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 Because it does have an effect. And anything, it doesn't have to be, because there's this thing about addiction, which and there's a theory which I've heard and which kind of makes sense to me, and it's a bit about human needs. So if you've got the human need for significance, for certainty, uncertainty, contribution, and all of those sorts of things, if there's something, whether it be a habit of any kind, that hits three of those things, then that's got the potential to become addictive for you, because it's kind of addressing those core needs that you've got. Now, again, this is a theory. I don't know what the science is behind it or whatever, but just I find these things interesting just to think about. And if I think about what alcohol, for example, does for me, well, it does give me a sort of a sense of certainty to a degree. It does also give me a sense of uncertainty, and yeah, from a social point of view, it gives me a sense of significance as well. Sometimes I didn't really need it, but kind of, you kind of get into
There's
it and all that.
almost a sense of belonging, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. And so if there's anything that you do obsessively, if you like, or habitually, then it's about asking yourself, okay, so what's the need, what's the void, if you like, because which you alluded to, and that this is kind of
Yeah,
addressing.
yeah. How do I address it in a different way?
Yeah, exactly. And it can be anything, because anything can become unhelpful, unhealthy for
Well,
you.
yeah, like
Working.
even exercise can become too much.
Yeah.
This is plus there are some people, like, you've got eating disorders and over exercising because that becomes too addictive to them, and like, then body dysmorphia comes into it. And like this, I mean, we could talk about this all fucking day.
Yeah.
But I think the point that I think we would like to get across here is for people to start to understand themselves, the lives that they're leading. Is what they're doing, is what you're doing serving you? Is
Yeah.
it helping you to move towards your goals? And if it isn't, then don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and what's it giving you? How else could I get that thing? Yeah, that's a good thing to think about, because you can get your kicks in different ways, right? So
Absolutely. There's
yeah,
so many better ways to get kicks than alcohol.
yeah. I agree. Especially as I've developed a bit of a taste for slightly more expensive wine, so it becomes an expensive habit as well as everything else. So
Yeah,
yeah, so that's not great.
I'm a fan of champagne and very expensive rum.
Right. Okay. Well, that'll do you, won't it?
Yeah.
That will do you. So what do you? I don't you probably don't want to talk about it. What do you put with your
Ice.
ice? Oh, there you go.
I
Yeah.
sip a rum
Yeah.
with a piece of ice.
I like a
My
dark
favorite
story.
is the Mount Gay XO
Okay.
with one piece of ice, like a big piece of ice, and you
Mm.
swirl it around and then you just sip it. That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I don't fancy rum now, so we'll move on.
well, I love a rum. I love a champagne.
Mm.
But I also really like the feeling of leaving the gym and having done really well.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
think it's all encompassing. We put this into business, into life, into our relationships, into our connection with ourselves and with other people. And I've
Yeah.
really, really loved this conversation. I hope you have as well.
I have.
Good. I'm sure everybody listening has as well. If you could give people one tip to be more confident in themselves, what would it be?
Um, I guess the thing about confidence for me is about remembering there aren't any absolutes. There's no always, there's no never, and you always have a choice. So that whole thing about observing how you are, how you're feeling, and sitting with it. Observe the evidence. And what evidence are you choosing to take notice of? Because if you can find one time when which doesn't help you feel confident, you can probably find one time that does help you feel confident. And it's the same with beliefs. You can choose what to believe. You can either choose a like an empowering belief, or you can choose a different one. And I think pretty well it's going to be empowering or it's going to be paralyzing. So what would you prefer? So choose what suits you.
Wow.
And then the other thing I would say is that life lesson for me, which is actually, if it's about other people, then you forget about yourself. And whether you call it confidence or whether you call it service, that'll see you through. So you've got a choice. So make a good one.
I love that. And we all do have a choice, and you can choose to be happy and confident and remember a time that you were and step into that, embody that, or you can choose to hide away. And like we said earlier, life's too short to be miserable, so you should make the most of absolutely every opportunity. And what all the listeners now need to do to take the opportunity to do is to find you and follow you and stalk you online, because we're fans of online stalking, just not in person. So where can people follow you, find you?
So I'm the bald bloke with glasses on with a blue background on Facebook and on LinkedIn and on Instagram. Actually, my Facebook page has not got a blue. My profile on Facebook hasn't got a blue background, but it's David Roberts basically. There's only about 258,000 of me, so the best thing to do is to go to actually the podcast, the People with Purpose podcast, and then click on the links in the show notes on there if you want to find me on social media.
For the listeners.
Right, perfect. Yeah, cool.
Absolutely. That's interesting actually, because there's only one Natalie Arabella Bailey.
Yes, I know. You've done well there, picking a name that nobody else has got. Congratulations.
It's become official now as well.
Cool. Oh, there you go. You got ticks and whatnot, blue ticks and
yeah, got blue ticks.
Awesome. Get in.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to give to the listeners, or anything you've got going on that you'd like them to come and find you about?
Well, I just want to say thanks for listening, and I just hope you've enjoyed listening to the conversation, and yeah, that's it really. I'm here to help if you want to talk or find out about purpose, or just want to talk to somebody about working out. Okay, so what do you love? If you want somebody to ask you some good questions to help you to make a decision or navigate your way through something, then yeah, I'll be very, very happy to do that for your listeners.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that's listening for all of your downloads, subscribes, your sharing with people that you like, and even with the people that you don't like, because everybody needs a helping hand every now and then. Thank you very much for listening, and we shall see you on the next one.